Hey, welcome back to another video. It's getting close to Halloween. That's my favorite time of the year. I'm going to be hopefully doing some projects that I'll be able to share with you all of how I'm preparing my decorations this year. We're really hoping to have some pretty good decorations outside since there won't be any trick-or-treating. I'm hoping that people will at least get to enjoy the season by looking at our decorations. We're going to start first of all with this guy. This guy's name is Bones. I got him at the 99-cent store. He wasn't 99 cents, but he was only $25. He's a full-size articulated skeleton. You know, that's half the price you can find him at anywhere else that I've ever found. But he has some limitations. His range of motion isn't great. He can move his arms around a single joint here, but he can't move them out. So I'm trying to pull out. He can't raise his arms like this. And another big limitation is his spine. His spine is straight and it doesn't bend at all. I'd like to get at least a few places where I could bend it so that it could pose. But first, to do that, we kind of need to see what we're working with. So I'm going to send him to the hospital to get some x-rays. So we'll take a look at those x-rays right now and see what we're working with. Okay, it looks like as we look at the x-rays of our patient, we see that he does have limited range of motion here in the shoulder area, and that is because he has a protrusion right here on the inside of his rib cage between the scapula and the clavicle that is allowing only a single axis of motion. What we would normally expect is to have a full ball joint that allows range of motion in any direction. So I think what we'll need to do there is remove the protrusion temporarily, insert an aluminum pin, and recombine it all back together. Here we are. It's the day of surgery for the shoulder of our patient here. What we're going to do is start by disconnecting the scapula from the clavicle and the ribs on the other side. So the first thing we need to do is remove the scapular screws. These scapular screws are formed at birth while in the womb. And it's interesting that for each person, they are unique, almost as unique as a fingerprint. And now we're going to separate the scapula and the clavicle, and this should release the protuberance at the top of the humerus. And there we go. We just removed the patient's left arm. You can see here the joint. You would normally not expect this piece, and tendons would keep the bone together. This patient seems to be lacking tendons, so I can see why this protuberance is being used, and I think we will continue to use that in a similar state. But I think we need to put in aluminum pins. Okay, you're joining me mid-operation here. I'm removing the screws from the anterior side of the humerus. Okay, so I've got all 5 screws removed from the anterior side of the humerus, and now we should be able to separate it gently so that we can make sure that it can be returned to its original shape. And there you see. Now we're going to hold it back together temporarily because we want to remove this protuberance. So I'm going to get out the bone saw and we'll cut that off. Okay, now to reform the joint, we're going to separate the bone once again. The connection in between, instead of a solid piece of plastic, what we're going to do is replace that with metal. This is aluminum. So to hold it in place, we are going to use epoxy putty. Plastic coating, and now we mix the inner part and the outer part together. And we'll start by wrapping it around one side here. Well, the first surgery was unsuccessful. A couple of reasons why it failed. First of all, as this bends, as this rotates, you can see here in the joint, what a ball wants to do is kind of rotate. I'm going to take this out. What a ball wants to do is rotate in the socket. That's the way that your body and my body would work, is to rotate in there. Now this one is not going to work that way. What we need it to do is actually rotate out. So it's going to actually need to bend this way. If we put this back in, first of all, you can see with the rotation, what happens is this stops. This runs into that, so this gets in the way. The other problem is this cannot grow at all. So no matter how much I bend it, it hits right here. The bone hits there and I can't go any further. So what I actually need to do is be able to pull it out here and let it bend out. The other thing I discovered is that this 1/4 inch aluminum is really too tough to bend for what we're doing. I need it to be able to bend a lot easier. So what we're going to do is a similar thing, but we're going to be using this aluminum instead. It's 1/8 inch aluminum. It bends a lot easier, but still holds the strength. And what we're going to do with it is actually build in kind of an accordion so that it has some room to bend. Okay, now what we have is this shape. We're going to do the same thing. We'll epoxy this end in here. We'll epoxy that end over there. But now when it bends, when it rotates, it can actually stretch these parts open. On my first attempt to rebuild the joint, I used plumber's epoxy putty. That's what this is right now. It works great, and it dries quickly, or it hardens quickly. But the thing that I don't like about it is that it's fairly expensive, and I need to use more than I did here to make sure that there's enough strength. So what I'm going to use instead is one of my favorite things, Magic Sculpt resin clay. So this is essentially the same thing. It's gray clay, and it's a 2-part mix. So we've got the hardener here that we just mix equal parts hardener with the resin, and we mix them together and they will harden up. The shoulder surgery was a success. So we'll go ahead and prep the patient for the same surgery on the other shoulder, and we will do this a similar thing in at least 2 places along the spine. see now, after removing that disc, we have a free range of motion here. We can bend the head in many different directions. The new ligaments have had plenty of time to heal, so now it's time to reassemble the skeleton. All right, sir, you're all done. How do you feel? Still have the same range of motion that you used to have. You can still raise your arms that way, but now you can raise your arms this way too. Nice. You can bend at the waist and you can bend your head. I love it. All right, let's go out and pose you. I really had fun working on this project today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can catch any future videos that I do. In the meantime, don't be bored, be creative. I'll catch you next time.